What is up, everyone? I've always been a big fan of the Mac Mini, and we've covered it several times on the channel. We've looked at the G4, the original Intel, the 2009, the 2011, the 2012, the 2014, the 2014 again, and of course the 2020. But there are a few noteworthy gaps there in the lineup of Mac Minis. We are going to sort that out a little bit today by checking out a model of the Mac Mini that I have never experienced in person. This is the 2010 Mac Mini. This Mac Mini has come all the way from Laurence in Shetland, so huge thank you, Laurence, for sending this over a couple of months ago. We're finally checking it out and I'm very much looking forward to doing so. Those of you with a keen eye may notice something a little bit wrong with this picture. Don't worry, all will be revealed. This is very nice. We've got a proper Mac Mini box, but this isn't quite the box for the 2010, because anyone who knows their Apple history knows that the 2010 Mac Mini was the final Mac Mini with an optical drive. So this isn't 100% correct, but hopefully, as soon as we pull the machine out, we will see, there it is. The optical drive. This model is super cool, and I think if I had to highlight three of the coolest points about it, this is the last Mac Mini with an optical drive, which some may say makes it the coolest Mac Mini ever, as it is indeed the most powerful Mac Mini with an optical drive built in. Second coolest thing is this is the most powerful Core 2 Duo Mac Mini, because this is the final Mac Mini that they used the Core 2 Duo processor before swapping to the Intel Core i5s and Core i7s. And of course, the third really cool thing about this model is this is the first Mac Mini to use this design. And this may look very familiar to lots of you because 14 years later, Apple are still building computers in this exact same case. They just, blocked up the optical drive slot a little bit. When you think about it, it is mind-boggling that this design has lasted that long, and it shows no signs of slowing down. This is just the perfect little case for the Mac Mini. We've got some Apple stickers and some original install discs. So I'm guessing these are Snow Leopard discs because this is a 2010 Mac Mini. The snag is this bad boy does not work. At least I don't think it does. Laurence informed me that it is in non-working state, and by the looks of things, we've got some parts in here. So yeah, that is a ribbon cable for the drive. Whether that's the optical drive or the hard drive ribbon cable, it is hard to say. Another ribbon cable, and they're different. Look at that. One must be for the optical, one must be for the hard drive. And then we've got some screws. Oh dear. Okay, that's looking good. Before we try to fire it up, I think it's worth mentioning that this is one of those models of Mac Mini that you can access the internals very easily. So let's think for a second about the previous model of Mac Mini, the original design. Even though they are quite accessible with the appropriate tools or with anything kind of thin that you can slide down the side to open the Mac Mini, this was the first truly user upgradable machine because it was accessible. And here is that bottom section that comes off. So as you can see, this is the little antenna grill with the antenna there in the middle. That slots in the side and screws in there. That must be unscrewed for a reason. And it's also unplugged from the AirPort card itself. Check it out. We have got user upgradable RAM right here in the bottom. Two 1 GB sticks, which is pretty sweet. We're rocking 2 gigs in this machine. Maybe we'll get a little upgrade for it as a treat. Let's pop those back in. General layout of the Mac Mini. Here's our logic board. There's the main cooling fan. Memory is here on this one. As you can see, in Apple's defense, having 2 SODIMM slots here does occupy some space within the system. It is a lot less space consumed by chips soldered directly to the board, but yeah, don't worry, I'm not one of those guys. I much prefer this, obviously. Power supply along the side here. Don't quote me on this, but I believe that all models of the Mac Mini used this power supply, but they remained with this physical shape. Here, I presume, is our optical drive. Our slot is there, there's a bit of a gap, and then here's the optical drive. Like I say, I've never owned a Mac Mini 2010. I'm guessing the hard drive goes here. Now I can see a free connection on the board there. That suggests to me that all that's missing is a drive. If we were to use this cable, would we then be able to loop that round and plug a drive in? I believe the answer is yes. That plugs in beautifully there. We're not going to whip out iFixit just yet. I'm going to get a 2.5-inch drive so that we can kind of test the size here. I did want to go with an SSD. Don't quite know what we've got. What's this? 500 gig Samsung 860 EVO. That might do the trick. And we've got some screws in here that would typically be found in a MacBook Pro to hold it in place. Don't even know if that's needed for the Mac Mini. Do you know, I did not know the drive went there on the 2010. I was under the impression that the drive was non-user replaceable on the 2010, as in you had to get deeper into the system to replace it. But then again, how deep into the system could you get? Because the optical drive is the final layer here. So yeah, I'm baffled. I was under the impression that you had to remove the motherboard to get to the drive, but hey, we've learned something today. Let's remove these screws. Question is, will that now just sort of slide in, or does it need something else? That ribbon cable is now too long. Do you need the shorter one? This appears shorter. It's got some kind of sensor on it. What is that, guys? Does anyone know? We'll look that up. I can't get the SSD out. It is totally stuck. It's really, oh, no. Maybe you do ordinarily have to remove the logic board to change this drive. This is my IMNC pro tip. When you can't get something out, come at it at a different angle. Yeah, works every time. Okay, I'm gonna put that back that way because I instantly confuse myself when I move the orientation of something. Now that could be for the Mac Mini that belongs to the box. This could be what we need. Bang, look at that. Straight in. So that's the drive plugged in. Now I've spotted a broken connector here. We have two pins, or two wires rather, hanging out here next to a connector which looks to be maybe a power input for the board. I'm not 100% certain. We're going to try and boot the system anyway because that might be something not critical, but it definitely looks fairly critical. So we'll investigate more if the system doesn't boot. It's not an ideal test because God knows what could short out in there at the moment, but I think it's still worth doing the test. Let's be super optimistic and plug in the network connection. Feeling a little bit nervous, thinking maybe would it have been better to do more research before pressing the power button? What's the worst that can happen? 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah. Flip, little look. Okay, so we are finding out where things go in the 2010 Mac Mini. That's where the airport antenna plugs in. That's cool. It is not the power supply cable that is damaged. It is, by the looks of it, the infrared board cable. Okay, that's interesting. In order, those cables across there are hard drive flex, optical drive flex, thermal sensor cables, 1, 2, 3, and our infrared cable. I think we can safely unplug this lot without worrying too much. I don't think we're going to be booting anytime soon. We're going in. There's no turning back. I'm just going to do a little side-by-side with iFixit here. So thermal sensor for the optical drive is there. That must mean that thermal sensor for the hard drive is on the connector here, or at least mine is. That has been fairly butchered because that's just a wire ripped out of the connector there, which is a shame. One big question I have is, will it boot, or will it even try to boot with all of these sensors and things disconnected? Oh, that was a struggle luck. I've got 2 of these Mac Mini opening tools, and I didn't know where they were, but I just happened to see this one in the drawer. Nice. Whoa! This motherboard's been taken out before. Usually they're a little bit stiffer than that. And I'm not even sure if this power cable was even connected. I didn't get a chance to see, so we might be able to just try this on the desk. We are gonna try some janky on the desk power
up thing here, even though that's not a good idea. Just got a random bit of plastic fall out of the case while I was moving it around. The closer I look, the crazier this thing is. There's the power supply connector in. Now we don't want the board to short on the case at all, so I'm just gonna hang it off the side there for a second. Ha! Yes! Yes! We've got a beep!
Oh crap, I haven't got a heatsink. Crap, unplug, go, go, go! Unplug! Ah, what a lovely beep. That is such a nice sound. Before slotting the motherboard in, we're just gonna sit this SSD down in here. I know this is kind of wishful thinking. Let's put a drive in here in case we can get the Mac Mini working enough to get an operating system on the damn thing, but I don't see why not. What are you? I've forgotten already. Infrared. Infrared, that's okay, we can deal with that. So we didn't get a boot when the motherboard was in the case, but we got a boot when the motherboard was out of the case. And a reason for that could well be the power connector was not plugged back in properly, because this has been disassembled and reassembled what looks like many, many times. And I wouldn't say that's a massive impossibility, because it is not the easiest connector to get in, especially with the drive sat there, look. Let's just, for sanity reasons, try it in the case. Do we get our glorious beep? Yes, beautiful. So that is doing a lot more than it did before. Let's put some more stuff in. If we get some RAM in here, I'm thinking we might get a bong if the RAM is in. What do you guys think? Please grant me the magic bong. Let's see. Ooh. Whoa! Check that out. Okay, unplug, unplug. Oh, let's get the fan back on this beautiful thing. Where's the fan plug in? Anyone know? Hello, iFixit. Nice long screw through the case, so you know you're putting it back in the correct place. Poetry and 2010 Mac Minis in the same video. Not bad, not bad. What we got in this bag? Yeah, so the screws that I unscrewed at the beginning weren't even holding the cooler in. So as you can see, that's now in. Is there another one? Yeah, there's that one. I'm really glad that they were in that bag, because otherwise we would have been a little bit stuck. That's far enough to give it another little test. Will that fan spin? 3, 2, 1. Ooh. What on earth are you rubbing on? Oh my gosh. The cooler is not happy at all. So the more I'm moving it, the better it's getting. Do you know, I'm gonna try a little slam. Ooh, that was nasty. That improved it a fair bit. Should give it another slam. Has that fixed it? We'll give it a couple of slams when it's running and see what happens. Let's try again. Now she's going. It's loud, but it's still blowing loads of air. That's blowing full air out the back there. The fact that it's spinning the fans up 100%, or the fan, isn't a great sign. Then again, none of its temperature sensors are plugged in. I'm gonna get a display hooked up to this thing, and let's check out what happens on the display. We're gonna run this bottom off Mac Mini crazy setup here for a second. Let's see what we get. 3, 2, 1, go. Right, so we have absolutely no video so far. I'm gonna bypass the split because I've set up a little HDMI split today to capture video for you guys. I very much doubt this is gonna work, but let's just see, just in case it's being a little bit fussy with HDMI. Okay, one really interesting thing I've noticed, because I've got lights on my keyboard and my mouse, when I first power the system on, they both flash. And then when the fan starts to ramp up, they don't light up at all anymore. Keyboard's off. Okay, maybe it's a good idea to plug in at least one of those sensors, maybe. One sensor plugged in there, and I've also reconnected what is left of this multi-pin connector that's labeled as an IR sensor on iFixit. But I was just thinking about it a little bit deeper, and the power light could possibly be connected to that as well. And the power light is not working. Every time we boot this guy up, there is no power light. There's a chime, there's a fan, but there's no power light. So I don't actually know what is broken on this connector. 2 wires are broken and the other 3 are fine. So the chances of us having a working power light are not impossible. Okay, let's see if that makes any difference at all. That's back to being super rough. Okay, we know one thing for sure. We need a new fan. That's just crazy. We've done an SMC reset incidentally because we've unplugged the power in order to fiddle around with those cables. So that is ticked off the list in terms of obvious things to try. We haven't done a PRAM reset. I mean, I really don't think this is going to work, but let's give it a go. Command Option P and R. It'll be interesting to see if the system responds to these keys. There we go. Oh no. Okay, interesting. It doesn't even stay alive enough to allow you to hold those keys down, because my keyboard lights up and then within about a second, maybe even 3/4 of a second, the light disappears instantly. So it's like the machine's going, hey, no way, and is not dishing out any more power through the USB ports clearly, and is then going into some kind of protect mode where it needs to ramp the CPU fan all the way up. I mean, that's obvious anyway, but the question is, why is it doing that? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to boot it with no RAM. And let's see what the fan behavior is with no RAM. Because we heard earlier that error code when we had no memory in the system. What will it do then? Will it still do the same thing? I mean, it's going to do something different because we're not going to get a bong to start with. It does exactly the same thing, other than the fact that instead of a bong, it gives you the memory beep. It was hard to hear over the fan there, but I just about heard it. So we know that the RAM is at least good enough to give us a bong. We may as well just put that back in and keep it in. That's not a problem. I think next easiest troubleshooting is if we just disconnect both of the drives, because we don't need to pull the fan out for this. Okay, no, I didn't think that would do anything anyway. That was worth a quick go, but sadly, exactly the same. Another little trick, I'm gonna try an official Apple keyboard because I'm using just a normal PC keyboard. We'll try this for the PRAM reset. I'm 99% sure this is not gonna work. If I tried a different CPU fan, would that work? Is that worth a go? The more time that passed waiting for this to arrive, the less and less confident I became in this making any difference to the working state of the machine. So my thinking is, these are 4-pin fans, and the system knows exactly what the fan is and isn't doing. So is the faulty fan causing the system to go into protect mode? That would be best case scenario. Likelihood of this actually working, very, very slim. Likelihood of there being a deeper problem with the machine, very, very high. But let's try it. We will know straight away if this works or not, because the fan will ramp all the way up, back into the protect mode or whatever, if it is not working correctly. 3, 2, 1, go. So she's ramped all the way back up, just like it was doing, but now we have a working fan, which is really nice. So we can ditch this one completely, throw it away. Lovely. We are really clutching at straws now. I've popped the battery on the motherboard and I don't know, it's an old machine, who knows? Let's put a fresh one in and see if that makes any difference whatsoever. Plus a little bit of time with no battery at all. That may count for something. This is crazy. The plastic is just breaking off into small little pieces. Where is that other piece? Yeah, so the battery is no longer gonna stay in on its own. What on earth is happening? It's getting more and more janky with every passing second. That was one of my very last ideas, so let's see. Where's the power button gone? It's still there. Yeah, understandable. I think just to double check, we'll plug in display. I'm 99% sure there's going to be absolutely nothing on the screen, but you never know. It is worth a go. Let's have a little look. I got excited then, that was just my monitor splash screen. Nothing at all. I think it's Google time because I don't know what else to try. I got really lucky. The parts delivery was nice and early in comparison to the estimates, so thank you very much, you guys over at the Bookyard. I was gonna have a little dig that things weren't packed well enough because it didn't come in a box, but we've had like 4, 5 padded envelopes, so yeah. I was happy to rock without a power light and without an IR sensor. If we could get the rest of the machine working, that would have been absolutely fine, but because we're swapping the motherboard, and this was an expensive part, this was only like an £11 part, plus if we're doing this, we may as well do this. It just makes it a more all-round machine. I wasn't gonna go out and buy all the sensors and stuff as well, so hopefully we can run okay without those, otherwise we'll be picking those up as well. And that is all it is, our pesky little IR/front LED board with a little cable harness and that 5-pin connector that's all broken on the existing one, so that will be nice. And here is our logic board. Oh man. I was not expecting a rattle, unfortunately. I'm going to take a quick video of this. Hopefully this is not damaged. We'll press on, we'll kind of ignore that. Maybe we can see what is rattling in here. Okay, so we may be in luck, guys. This could just be old thermal paste. Now that I've poured out all of these bits, it looks to be just crusty old thermal grease. I would have expected them to clean it a little better, especially for the price. It's quite dirty. It's covered in thermal grease. Let's just hope nothing is broken. Otherwise, I'll be a little bit frustrated. But we've got a battery installed. Board looks okay at first glance. So let's get disassembling this Mini. Get this motherboard out of the way. We'll do the transplant of anything that needs shifting from this board to that board. Of course, we need to go a little bit deeper now. So I am following the iFixit guide to get deeper into this machine because we're going to need to pull pretty much everything out in order to change this little board at the front here. Here's our little AC socket retaining metal clip thing, and here comes our power supply. 2010 to 2014 models use the same power supply, so nice. Removing the power supply has revealed more of the innards, the very, very bottom layer of the Mac Mini cake here, the optical drive held in with all of its various bits and pieces here. It is the same sort of tray type cage system here that's holding in the optical drive and then also holds in the hard drive here with like a hard drive little corral that sits behind the logic board. Very, very densely packed machine. Nice, nice design. And then the following year in 2011, they gained a lot of room inside by removing the optical drive. The connector on this sensor is completely broken, so there's no point us keeping it on here. It's not going to be plugged in, so it's just wires hanging about for no reason. Beautiful. So there is our optical drive and its little cage, and there is still a disc in here. That leaves the Mac Mini case completely empty. There is not a single component left in here because our final component, the IR sensor board, is actually attached to this drive cage here, which is quite nice. Now I realize that the overhead camera is not the best quality in the world, so this is a close-up of the broken connector. We've lost 2 wires out of the connector there, and that is the board on the front for the sensor and the LED. Surprisingly, it uses a Phillips screw on the inside here. There's our little IR board, the broken one. And here is the fresh one. There we go, that's quite a small one there. That is successful installation of our new board. I'm choosing to put the drive in now because now is the time you're actually meant to put the drive in. You're not meant to force the drive out with the motherboard in place. That would actually be pretty impossible with the original hard drive as well because it had a cover. It would have been bigger than the SSD. The only reason I can slide it out above the board is because this is slimmer. Now what I have done is I've put 2 screws in the side of this drive. Unfortunately, they're not the screws that came with the Mac Mini. I've looked through the extra screws that came with this and they are not here. But you're meant to have 2 screws here and then they slot into the front of the case here, and that'll hopefully stop the drive from just rattling around. It's a shame, those screws are too big. They are not falling into the holes. What we'll do is just put it in as is, and then hopefully when everything else is in, it'll be a bit more stable. We can shift focus now to the motherboard itself. Here is the old and here is the new. We've got to migrate the back portion of the Mini here over onto the new logic board, and also the speaker over and the Wi-Fi card over as well. One speaker with very, very delicate wire. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, guys. The cabling situation is not straightforward. Now we just need to do the airport card swap, I think. Let's put that straight onto this board before we lose any of the screws. I'm really surprised that the board has come with a heatsink, so we don't actually need to swap the heatsink, which is great. That wouldn't really benefit us in any way, other than possibly fresh application of thermal compound. But we're not going to do that because I am just desperate to get this machine up and running. We'll be able to check the temperatures. If it is rough, I can always pop it back out. It won't be a big deal. Pop the heatsink off and reapply the thermal compound. He says now, not too sure that that even would be the case, but I just want this up and running now. There is the I/O panel on. It is starting to look like a Mac Mini logic board again. Now all we need to do is filter all of these bits and pieces back in the correct place. Really handy that they crimp these little metal bits onto the wires here, because that kind of shows you where things are meant to go, and it shows you the amount of length that you're meant to leave in a particular area. This is now quite a scary time. Everything has been repopulated. So we've got the speaker board, the airport card, all of the cabling has been rerouted. Everything, as far as I can see and remember and tell, it's all plugged back in. Power buttons plugged back in, speakers plugged back in. We're ready to try this in the Mini. This is really scary, really, really scary. Excitement has kicked in and I'm struggling to get the power connector into the board, and I'm trying to be really careful because I know that this is a working board. No, 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 no. Oh no, that's such a shame. Okay, at least it's not anything logic board related. I have just snapped the little screw holder bit there on the fan. So the fan, oh no. I'm just gonna hold that down with a bit of tape for now on the side just to even it out a bit. Moment of truth. I haven't jinxed it this time by connecting loads of stuff we don't need. We just have power, display, and a keyboard. 3, 2, 1, go. DVD. Well, one really nice thing is the power light works on the front. I just took out one stick of RAM. I just put one stick of RAM back in and now it's not beeping. What's it gonna do now? Is this gonna be the one? Is there something wrong with this RAM? Let's see. Yes! Yes, yes, yes! Oh man! Let's do a PRAM reset on this guy, see if that helps. And there's the bong. Couldn't hear it because the fan is going full speed. There's the second bong, and there's the third bong. So we're getting a PRAM reset. That's incredible. If we just slot in installation disk 1, macOS install DVD, will she boot from the DVD? Let's see what she does. Oh, guys, hallelujah. Hallelujah. The graphics are freaking out a little bit. Let's just ignore that for a second. It's kind of like strobing. So even better news today, I've confirmed the weird strobing in the video, not that you can see it very clearly on the capture, but I can see it very clearly on the monitor here. It is simply the splitter that I'm using to capture the video. So when I plug the Mac Mini directly into the monitor, it is perfect video. I'm really glad about that because it did for a second look as if there may be a little fault with that logic board and the graphics or maybe the HDMI output or something, but it's all good. So things are looking better and better all the time for this little Mac Mini. We have officially got this machine running. There's still a fair bit to do, but I'm gonna call it a day for there. I think we've run out of time in this one. In the future, we will revisit this guy and just do all the little finishing touches. That includes replacing the cooling fan that I unfortunately broke, but never mind, there's a lot worse things to break in this system. I'm just glad everything important is working. We also want to change the temperature sensors because this thing's like a jet engine, so we'll install all new temperature sensors in it next time. And for those of you who noticed during the installation, I did partition the drive so that we can experiment with a different OS on here. Snow Leopard on the primary partition and then a spare partition for some tinkering we may want to do in the future. I've tried to run some games on this guy, but we are really held back by the 1 GB of RAM, I think. Half-Life 2 ran like an absolute dog, even at all low settings. Need for Speed Most Wanted ran even worse, even with the resolution pulled right down. But I know the 320M in this guy is capable of a lot more, so I need to pick up some more RAM for this guy. So make sure you stay subscribed for the next time we check out the 2010 Mac Mini. We are 99% of the way there. Just some lovely finishing touches on this guy and it'll be perfect. For those of you who haven't seen a video from me for a while, we now have an official IMNC Discord server, so please feel free to click the link in the video description and join in all the nerdy natters. There's an amazing gang of people over there and we have a lot of fun. We've also sneakily introduced some YouTube membership perks for the IMNC channel, so if you want to check those out, please feel free to do so. If not, absolutely no problem at all. Everything will remain the same identical groovy IMNC experience that we all hopefully love. And finally, and most importantly, another huge thank you to Laurence for sending in this Mac Mini 2010. It's been awesome fun getting this thing back up and running. Even if it does sound like a jet engine at the moment, we will sort that out. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all in the next episode.